or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks for joining us with the Women in Leadership Mentoring webinar. And we're excited because I have a whole team of ladies here ready to share their awesome experiences they've already had with what we do as the Vineyard USA Women in Leadership team. And in a moment, I'm going to have you meet each one of those. But for right now, let me just give you a brief introduction to what's happening today. I'm Dianne Leman, and I facilitate the team, but everybody is just as much a leader on this team as I am. So, hey, never want to take too much credit there. We have been launching mentoring sessions now. This will be our third one, and we have learned a lot. So, hey, you aren't guinea pigs, but you want to definitely make an effort. Applications are available on the vineyardwomen.com website, and we're taking those till October 15th, and our sessions start in November and run through April. Now, you're going to get all the details of what those include and how they operate, but you need to know that as a team in the Vineyard USA, we are 100% committed to helping raise up, mentor, come alongside women in leadership as they join teams of men, staffs, or even in the workplace. And so this is one tool we have found to be extremely valuable, that we can, even though it's virtual reality, we're meeting over a Zoom call, we are sharing our hearts, we're praying with one another. We have 6 months packed of awesome topics and conversation. And so we are just excited because this is one way we can further the mission of the Vineyard USA that has totally affirmed us as women in leadership in the movement. So to get started, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, tell a little bit about them, where they are, and then we'll circle back around to telling you more about the actual mentoring sessions. Okay, so let's start. Go ahead. Christina, you're at the top, so tell us about it.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Lowry, and my husband, Joel, and I, we've been co-pastoring our church, Crossroads Church in Fredericksburg, Virginia, for 10 years now. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and I absolutely love being a pastor. It is my dream job. I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm also, my husband and I, we've been married for almost 20 years. We have 3 kids. And Hannah just went into high school this year. We have a middle schooler, Caleb, and a 5-year-old, Zoe, who just started kindergarten. So we are keeping very busy right now. And is that pretty much what I'm supposed to cover, or anything else?
That's good. Yes.
All right.
Let's move on to Rose. Oh, Rose.
Oh, hi, I'm here. I had to unmute myself. So I'm Rose Swetman. I live in Seattle, Washington, but behind me you can see the skyline of Manhattan, because Rich and I are visiting a Vineyard church plant in Manhattan this week. So that's what's behind me. Rich and I have been married 22 years. We have a blended family of 8 kids, 22 grandchildren. I'm the regional leader for Vineyard USA Northwest region. Up until 2 years ago, I pastored a church, and then through a medical situation, transitioned the church to another pastor. And so now Rich and I mostly just are in the region and pastoring pastors, which is a very sweet spot for us. I was ordained in 1995, sat in as a pastor in my church that I transitioned, and have an absolute passion for what we're doing, equipping and empowering women to reach the full potential that God has called them to.
Great. Okay, Chalane.
Hi there. I'm Chalane Coit. I'm from Grand Junction, Colorado, and I am the senior pastor of Vineyard Community Church. I'm one of those women who leads alone. I do not co-pastor with my husband. I planted with a friend, and unfortunately he passed away 3 months after we planted. So I have been solo senior leader for the 8+ years that this church has been in existence. I'm married to an incredible, great guy. He is a public school educator. We have been married on October 1st, 29.5 years. We are April Fool's people, and so that's why I know we're our half year. We have 2 adult sons. Our oldest son, Bo, is 28, and he is on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ and is a minister on university campuses up in Denver, Colorado. And then our younger son, Keenan, is 25, and he is a realtor here in our valley. And I'm so excited to be here. And yet my passion, like you said, Rose, I'm just there. I want to encourage women. I think it's important that we see that there isn't a glass ceiling, that we are created equally, that we have incredible gifts. And how do we encourage you women to get to all the potential that God has placed in you? How do we mine that with you and then help you find your calling? I just think that's really important. So glad to be here.
Okay, thanks, Chalane. And Sharon.
Yeah, hey everyone. I am Sharon McCarter. I am living in Maryville, Tennessee, which is East Tennessee. We love it here. I grew up in Florida, but met my husband who is from Tennessee. So now I'm a Tennessee girl. We planted the Maryville Vineyard Church 14 years ago. And we've been married 15 years. So this is kind of what we know. This is what we've done. We have 2 kids, Bryce and Bree, 10 and 8, and I'm on the executive team, which has been just a huge honor, just 1 year in so far on the executive team, and just loving being a part of the women in leadership team. We're just wrapping up our first round of mentors, and it's just been incredible, just incredible for me too, as well as for them.
Yes, yeah, that's so true, isn't it, Sharon? As you'll hear, that the mentors have gained just as much, if not more, than the mentees. But I just love how that works in the kingdom.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, as I said, I'm Dianne Leman, and my husband Happy and I planted and have led the Vineyard Church of Central Illinois in Champaign-Urbana for 40 years. And we are now in the process of an awesome transition, handing it over to a great team, which includes my daughter. And so that's very exciting. I get to actually practice what I preach and believe and lead. And so it's a great, exciting season, and we're trying to still stay very involved, do a little more travel, take care of our 16 grandchildren, and yet stay very hungry and excited about all that Jesus is doing in the kingdom. So, well, let's get on. And I think there is a space to type in questions that you can be adding those in, because we're definitely going to have a time when we finish sharing to hear your hearts, answer the questions you might have, and that's important to us. So I take it you click the little Q&A button. Is that correct? I'm never all that great on these. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask Rose, though, now just to take some time. She has mentored the most women of all of us. And I love this. I don't know if you said this, Rose, but she is I don't know if you call it an adjunct professor at the university there in Seattle, one of those, and has had all kinds of experiences, obviously, in mothering and pastoring and leading. And I would like for her to share the why behind the mentoring program. Like, what exactly is the whole value? And then just share a little bit, maybe a couple quick stories, and then we'll hear from some of the other ladies. But go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, the why is since 2006, when the Vineyard USA made the resolution about equipping women in all levels of leadership in our movement. At that time, some task force now networks were put together to help the movement make that transition. And so we have done several things. We were having an annual event where we would host men and women working together and have different topics, because we think it's super important that the point of all of this is that men and women work together alongside. We are big on mutuality. So we're hosting events, an annual event. We did one retreat where we invited all of the female senior pastors to Malibu and did a retreat with them. So we've been doing things since 2006, but about a year or two ago, we really tried to discern what is the best way to steward the resources that we have in order to reach the most amount of women through our movement. And I don't know who came up with the idea, probably Di, to do these online mentoring groups. And so I've just finished round 3 and had 3 groups, or round 2, sorry, with 3 groups. And it's been incredible. What I think is the value in this is we have accessed women throughout the country who maybe couldn't afford to come to an event or be with us, women that are discerning a call to senior leadership, women that have been functioning in high levels of leadership. So we've been able to really access across the nation and actually beyond. I think we even had some international women join us in the last round to be able to share together over some very intentional topics that you'll hear about later, and really dive deep into them with women. And what I found is that there's a unique issues and challenges that come for women in ministry. So having a cohort for 6 months of being with other women in like situations to discuss these challenges, to learn, dive deep into some topics that we all really face day in and day out in our ministry lives, and also to gain relationships across the country. Like, how else are we going to meet each other, even know that we're out there? So it's been really exciting in both sessions to see women in the cohorts connect with one another, pray for one another, email each other, call each other in between sessions to get advice. Or, when you said that, that really struck me because I'm going through that. So I think it's just created some great relationship, camaraderie, with understanding. Many of us are in different seasons of life. We have, single women, young married women, married women with young children, teenagers. Di and I are grandmothers. And so we're just being able to access across the spectrum women in different situations, but have very unique and similar challenges and issues that come up. So I've just, and like Di said, I have actually been so on the other side of receiving from some of the women in the cohorts. Like, they pray for me, they check in on me, they bring up things that in their scenario I never had to face in mine, and vice versa. And it's a very reciprocal process, and it's been super, just really gratifying for me to see so many women in our movement join in and be supported.
Yes.
Is that good?
That's awesome, Rose. Yes.
Let me tell you one thing. This morning, I had an email. I had a group last session with returning mentees. So they went through the first time, then they returned, and I had that group of women. And one of them emailed me this morning and had some questions about the next round. And here's what she said in the email. I want to sign up. I have a few questions, but I need this ongoing community and support of other women pastors now more than ever is important, orienting me toward long-term health. And the reason is she's just stepped into her first pastorate and said, I need this group now more than ever. So I just thought that was very interesting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to have Sharon now explain just briefly, how does the whole thing work? What are the groups? How many are in the groups? The calls, the topics, and any of the logistics, Sharon, just to give people a picture of what it is.
Yeah, so it's really easy to sign up for the group. You just go to our website, and I'm going to it right now. It's vineyardwomen.com. You scroll down, and there's events, resources, and mentoring. You hit mentoring, and then that gives you pretty much there's a huge button. It says apply now, and then you fill out the application. And the application is really important because we want to be able to match people up well. In sort of the same season of life, in what you're looking for out of our mentor. So you fill out the application, and I believe you have to pay up front now. And so there's a cost to this, and we believe that it's an investment. It's really important. When you value this, you're going to get pretty much out of it what you put into it. And so it's a $200 cost for 6 months of mentoring. And then we will match you up in a group based on all the things we're talking about, criteria and that kind of thing, what you're looking for, and also just based on time zones, when you're available. So then we'll put you in a group, and your group will have probably 3 to 7 people in a group. And then your leader, you'll be assigned to a group leader, one of us, one of the mentors. And we will we'll email you all and then make sure we can find a good time for us all to set up a Zoom call just like this. And so you can, you just need a computer and maybe headphones, maybe not. And it's about an hour and a half once a month that you'll meet. And probably before we meet, we'll send you the topic that we're going to talk about, which you can see, on the website too. But we'll send you a heads up on some topics, on some questions, so you can become prepared. And we'll send you like a Zoom instruction, where it's really just a link. You just click the link, super easy. You're on the Zoom call. And so that's about 90 minutes for 6 months.
Okay, good. Does anybody else want to just add any other, that was a great description, Sharon. Anything else that popped into your mind as she was, as she said, we will refer you to the vineyardwomen.com website, which we hope you'll become a visitor to often, and also our Facebook page, because we regularly post sermons and articles, and we'd love to hear from you. But what is helpful with the website right now is it does detail the topics that we cover, and so you get an idea of what the 6 months will entail. And obviously we do chase rabbits, and we take time to pray if there are pressing issues or you just want to talk about something else. But we like having the topics arranged like this because all of us cooperate with one another in preparing the material. And so you can be assured that when you get together, it's not just a fly-by-night, well, what are we going to talk about now? No, things have been thought about. You know it ahead of time, the topic. You've done some preparation. The mentor has done preparation. And then we let the Holy Spirit take it where he wants. But be assured, this isn't just a gab session, as much fun as those might be. We are very intentional about what we're talking about and the preparation. So, yeah. Okay, let's then move on. Christina, I'm going to have you and Rose and Sharon, and then we'll hear also from Chalane, who is new, but we're so excited because, again, she brings a unique perspective. She is a sole senior pastor with an awesome supportive hubby, but she's doing this, and man, has she navigated some rough waters. That is for sure. So what I'd like Christina, why don't you go ahead and start and just share, any of your best experiences from the mentoring program, a highlight, or whatever you feel would help our listeners get a better picture of what we're talking about.
Sure. This was my first experience as a mentor. And to be honest, I kind of had the guidelines and the topics to discuss. I prepared as best I could, but I really didn't know what to expect out of it. I didn't know anything about the women coming into it. And it was very interesting as we got to know each other. Really within the first 2 sessions, we discovered that while each of the women in our group were in different positions and life stages, and they were all, most of them were on staff at a church somewhere, but the interesting thing was that we discovered that every single woman was in some form of transition in their ministry, whether it be one woman, her church had just decided to close its doors, and then another was looking to resign and start a new ministry with their husband. And so we just had a collection of women at different places, but all in transition. And so that, we really did stick to the topic most of our times, but because there was such a common season that we were all in, our conversation really wrapped around that concept of the transition that everyone was in. So that was really good. And it was really neat because every situation, even though everyone was in transition, what I noticed began to happen, I thought as a mentor, I was coming in to, be the leader and be the spiritual mentor, but it really was a collective, just community effort of, each of us praying for each other and each of us encouraging each other. And our last meeting, this is kind of the piece of it. All of our conversations and prayer time have been wonderful, and all of the topics have been really good for us. But someone had mentioned earlier that sometimes it kind of gets flipped onto the mentor. Our last month, I came to the meeting and I didn't even know how to start it, because I had just found out that some of my closest friends, some of the highest people in leadership within our church had turned on us, and it was unraveling very, very quickly. And I didn't even know how to start the meeting, but because it had unraveled so quickly, I couldn't even postpone it. And so we started the meeting, and I started out by, I couldn't even barely talk. I just started crying, and it was instantly, all of these women just came around me, and we prayed for almost the whole session. But for me, that was just such a special, honestly, my personal favorite session that we shared together, just because here I'd been here to serve them, but yet they just became such a much needed support for me on a very, very difficult day. So yeah, that's really my experience. I absolutely loved it. I will do it again and again. I hope that perhaps I can continue some of these ladies in this next season, but just an incredible experience. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Rose, let's go to you, and maybe in sharing, you could also address the variety of women. You touched on a little bit, and Christina said many of her gals were in transition. Were they all pastors or staff pastors, some not even in the pastoral ministry? Maybe just address that. You've had the largest selection of people. So, and then share anything else you'd like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In my groups, it was a variety. I had staff pastors. I had lead co-pastors that were pastoring with their husbands. I had women that were discerning their call. They were in leadership at their local church, but were discerning if the next step was pastorate and pastoral ministry in an associate or senior level. So across the spectrum, I would say that these groups are mostly for women discerning that call or already in a leadership position. So a senior leadership position, associate staff pastor, senior or senior pastor. So just a variety. And again, I had single women, married women, like across the age spectrum in different seasons of life. And in some ways, having some women in the groups that were in different seasons was super helpful. So there were young women where some of the older women were able to actually give their experience of things that was super helpful for them, just like maybe a step ahead or a couple steps ahead of where those women were. I too had, most of the women in my groups were in huge transitions. It was interesting. They were either transitioning into a new role of leadership or transitioning out of leading a church. Lots of transition going on all across the board. And then, of course, with that transition, many of the women were discerning what's next. They knew that God was inviting them to something, but wanted to just try to discern. And by deep diving into the topics, I think that was very helpful. In this last round, I had some younger women where we did some deep dives into the topics, and it was interesting because they didn't have a theological framework for women in ministry. So it was really helpful for them, that section of our topics, to discover, oh, this is why we can do this. And it was very freeing for them. I think there was another round of younger women where we did the biblical justice issues that were able to look through a different lens at what does the Bible really say. Like, we're sort of getting all of our news from the media right now about what social justice is, but what does the kingdom say? What does Jesus say? What does our biblical text tell us? So for many of the young women, that was one of the best sessions for them. They would, contact me to say, wow, I never even knew that was in the Bible. I never even knew we should look at it through that lens. That was super helpful. I think right now I'm working with a seminary in Seattle that I am an adjunct for. The seminary won a very large grant from the Lilly Foundation to just do research on resiliency in the pastorate. And one of the things that we've discovered through the research is that pastors that have long-term or that have resiliency, because we all will go through hard times, as Christina said. I mean, this is common when you're in a leadership position to go through some very hard times. So how do we go through those times and come out the other side being more formed in like Jesus, instead of being bitter and just giving up the bat and going away, throwing down our bat? So the resilience program has identified 3 things that are much needed in the ministry, and that is a community of peers that are sort of in the same level as you, a community of peers that understand what it means to carry that kind of water in leadership, practices. And so we do, one topic is soul care. What are the practices that put us in the way of grace, that continue to connect us to the Spirit, to Jesus, in order to be taking in and giving out from that place rather than our own strength? And purpose. What is our purpose? And that's the discerning the call. In each season of life, what is the purpose? What is the call that the Spirit of God is inviting us to participate in? So is that good, Di?
That is just outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's move to Sharon. And Sharon, you share. Yeah.
I loved my group. I don't really want to see them go. I think we'll kind of keep up a little bit, because a lot of times it's just like we've found and built these relationships now. And I love how comfortable we all got. So, at first you don't know each other, you're strangers, but then we got like really comfortable and we've become friends. And I think for us, the best part of our group was seeing other women really, really doing these things. I think we talk about it a lot and we know other women are doing it, but to really meet and connect with other women who are pastors, associate pastors, youth pastors, and preaching all the time. And so we got to really connect. And I think we were just really encouraged to be friends with people who were doing it in other places of the country. And then we got to talk about, it seems like it's being handled differently in every one of our churches. And so some churches are like struggling more with the theology and practice. And so I think we were all on some kind of different way our churches handle it, which again, we talk about how we're a little bit frustrated about that, because we kind of were like, okay, wear the head covering and be quiet or don't, it's like all this in between is really hard. And so we got to just like, even like, not vent at all in a bad way, but like process and air, like this is hard, because even though we do believe in this, the Vineyard believes in this, there's still a lot of work to do. We're so grateful for, where we've come from 2006, but there's still a lot of work to do. And so we were just encouraged by each other's things. So there's this one senior pastor who is like paying for 2 females on staff, one I was mentoring, to finish their seminary degree. And that's really encouraging. And, so we were all just encouraged, or discouraged together, but feel like we're moving in the same direction. And then the other thing I thought that just struck me the whole time was it felt like a really safe place to dialogue about things. You can't always talk about freely about everything with everyone in your church, or because you think if you question something, then it's just, people think that's what you think. And so for us, like even, social justice or what Paul means, in the scriptures and the context. And like, if we were wrestling with something, it felt like a safe place to wrestle. It's like, I don't, so, especially on social media, if you say the wrong thing, you are like in trouble, And so I think for us, I didn't feel like we were all going to hold each other to it. Like we got to really ask hard questions or really ask what each other thinks. And it was really healthy. And I was, again, grateful for that. Just friendship, a friendship with people outside of your own church, I'm learning more and more, is a big deal.
Well, thanks. Now, Chalane, you have not officially been part of this, but you have mentored a lot of people. And so just share your heart, what you're looking forward to, or any insight you have. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I think a great thing for me is that when I came on staff at the Vineyard, it was 2001, and I was brought on as a pastor. I was invited by a man to come and step in and be a pastor at this church, and was cross-gendered mentored for the whole time I was on staff at that very large church. And I appreciated there was a man who would actually step in and saw what I believed was my calling, but I had to have somebody else actually notice it in me and call me into it and then mentor it. And I appreciated that. And so then a few years later, when we went to actually plant a church in 2011, I planted, as I said, with a friend, but that friend passed away. And so I felt like I was very much on my own. The man who'd been mentoring me was no longer a pastor with the Vineyard, had retired, and I was having actually a very difficult time navigating this thing called leadership and ministry. And I think that that's true for many of us, that even when we're called into it, this is a very difficult career. It's a very difficult calling. And you hear all the time for people saying things like, well, ministry is so lonely. Well, ministry is so difficult. Well, ministry, as Rose said, we need to have peers. We need to have ways to practice this to stay healthy. We need to have purpose in what we're doing. And part of that is it's difficult for us even to find peers, other women who are doing what we're doing. And I used to joke around a lot. I'd go to meetings with the people in my region, in my area, and because I don't golf and I don't smoke cigars, I didn't always get invited to all the things where they were actually building relationship. And I'm relationship driven. That's part of who I am. So I was really having a difficulty in my calling. And I did something that was pretty bold. I called Dianne Leman and I said, I need a mentor. I got to have someone help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel very alone. I need direction on things like how do you resolve issues with boards? How do you get sermon feedback? I don't know how to do this on my own, and I'm on my own. And I tell you, that saved me. That saved me. I was about ready to get out of this wonderful thing that I was called into because I could not do it on my own. And I recognized that. And so that relationship that I had with Di, which was one time a month for an hour, I'd send her some messages and or a couple notes, say, I need help with this. Can we talk about these few things? And it was delightful and wonderful. And it was the framework for making me the leader that I am now. And so that is why I'm passionate about it. That's why I reach out to other women and say, how can I help you? Can you be in a mentoring group with me? Will you do this book with me? I call them in and invite them in because I don't want women to go through what I went through. I don't want them to feel like I felt, that I'm in this alone. And you know what? We were created out of relationship. Our God is a Trinitarian God. He's in relationship, and he created us for relationship. And it's no different for who we are as leaders. We're created for relationship. So we have to have something that is very specific like this. Women who are mentoring women who can say, yeah, we feel what you feel. Because there are guys who can feel what I feel for sure. Men leaders deal with what I deal with all of the time. And they have a lot of men that they can go talk to about this. But when I say something to them about the fact that as a woman, I'm dealing with something else, like the Christian bookstore in our community who gives a 20% discount to pastors, but because the owners are from a church that don't think I should be pastoring, I don't get the discount. Things like that I say, all leaders carry a lot, women leaders carry a little bit more. We have a few different things that we got to carry around. We feel like we've been invited to the table. And then we're chastised for how we speak at the table because we're a little too loud or a little too bossy. And yet our male counterparts are really encouraged for their passion when they get louder. So we got to learn how to navigate these things together. And that's what I'm passionate about. So I want to be there with a group of women who I can not only feed into, but can be fed by. And I think that happens in groups like this. So I'm very, very excited to be part of this and this next season. And my last little caveat is I'm coming off of a 3-month sabbatical and learned a lot about self-care and soul care and good rhythms to be in and identity and how to live in our identity and surety and playing to the audience of one. That's deeper in me now. I'm just even more excited to share that with women. So looking forward very much to this season with some women.
I hope all of you listening are catching just the vision and the heart behind all of this, because we did somewhat stumble upon this, and as far as just, it wasn't some grandiose plan. It was just born out of our desire to connect more with more women all over the country in the Vineyard, and to use the technology that now is so available for everyone. So we are very, very excited, and we're improving. We get feedback from our groups that complete, and they let us know what to improve or different topics possibly that we could address. And so we are always evaluating. But before we go to specific questions, do any of you gals have anything else that was prompted as others shared? Just feel free to go ahead. Anybody? No other comments? No? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and see. I see a couple gals have entered some questions here. And so before I answer them specifically, again, detailed information is available on the website. Applications are due by October 15th, and new sessions will start and run November through April. And those times are determined by the groups, just whatever works best. We're always coordinating time zones and work hours and family commitments and all that, but it does work. And then the cost, I think Sharon, several of you addressed this. We did some investigating, and my own daughter participated in a leadership type group. It wasn't part of the Vineyard, and it cost thousands of dollars. And it was a very similar format, an online call, a group. They did a getaway, but that they financed themselves. And we've actually tossed around the idea of concluding with a getaway somewhere. But my point is, we realized we're offering something valuable, and each of the gals who take up the responsibility of leading in this are giving time and energy out. I mean, we're all full-time pastors still, and so this is in addition to that. And we just felt like asking for our participants to show 100% commitment by being willing to pay. Now, we don't want that to be a stumbling block. And so let us know if that is an issue. We have a very small budget as a team, but there's a possibility we could do some partial help. And we could also help you. We asked for the money up front, but we don't want that to be a stumbling block, so we can work out that. We're not, this is the Vineyard, okay? So we, more than anything, we want you to be able to participate. Okay. All right, let's look at some of the questions that came in. And if you're willing to answer for me, you just go ahead and click your unmute and begin. So Melanie, hi Melanie. Good. Yeah, it's so good to see your name there. She says, I'm wondering how, as a woman lead pastor, I can get more involved in helping advance women within the Vineyard. Okay, would someone like to click answer live and go ahead, Rose?
Yeah, I was reading that. Melanie, that's such a good question. And my first thought was, if you went to your area leader or your regional and asked how can you do that within your own area and region, would be, I think, super helpful. Like if there was a way that you could gather women, if there was a way that you could help encourage women, if you could direct them to the Women in Leadership website where there's tons of resources, maybe encourage women that you see in your area and region that you've actually identified have potential or discerning or need extra support, that you could direct them to what we're doing. But those were my initial thoughts, and maybe someone else has more.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because if you can actually reach out and be a little more proactive in making some of these things happen, I don't think that the men counterparts that we have in ministry are leaving us behind or putting us aside intentionally. I just don't think it's necessarily always top of mind. And so what I have found is by being a little more proactive, talking to my area, talking to my regional leaders, saying things like, hey, at the regional conference, I'd love to have a women's luncheon, or I'd love to have a women's breakout. Can I do something like that? Or going to them and saying, I have this really great idea for a regional gathering or an area gathering for the women within our area or region. Could I talk to you about about that? And is there any money set aside in our area region that could help take care of the luncheon or things like that? And then maybe it's some of these mentoring topics that you can actually help encourage these women with, and also encouraging them towards this mentoring opportunity. That's one of the things. I know the women in our tribe are hungry for this. I know it. In all of our regions, we're going to feel it. And many of them don't even know that something like this exists. And so even bringing vineyardwomen.com into their realm of reality is good, and letting them know some of these things that happen. So I agree, Rose. The more that we can just encourage these people, Melanie, and you're great at it already, would be to just see what you can do to pull things together. And playing off a little something that Di said, if you think finances are going to be an issue for you for this, go to your area and go to your region and ask them if they'd help you with this. This makes you a better leader. And it's a great investment for them also to make. So maybe if you're struggling a little bit to put the finances together, see if the area or region could kick in a little bit of help for you financially.
Good. Okay. Anybody else
I was
want
going
to
to
add
add one more thing.
Sure.
One more thing I was going to say is this is more on a grassroots level, but Melanie, something that I heard just recently is if you see it, say it. So if you see a woman who has leadership ability, leadership potential, and they're not necessarily in leadership at the time, a lot of times you'll see it, within a team at church, or just interacting with different people. If you see it, say it, and then encourage them to take action towards, whatever that looks like, whether it's to step up in leadership within the church setting, or even within your area or region, encouraging church planters. There's so many more than ever, opportunities to plant churches as a woman. And so that's just something practical at a more grassroots level, is if you see it, say it. Encourage them when you see that in them. So
it's good. Okay. Hope that was helpful, Melanie. I'm glad you're here. Let's go on to Kimberly Koppel. Hi, Kimberly, if you're still on. But she had a good question. What are your expectations on mentees aside from the meetup? For example, study preparation as we come to the meetups. So Sharon, you want to grapple with that, and then some of the others can join in. Yeah.
I think it's one of the things I liked best about this is that we know you all have a lot on your plates, and so do we. And so we send out the questions to get you to start thinking. There's usually scripture involved and that kind of thing. But other than that, it's really just to kind of get your mind starting to think in that direction. But that's about it. And then you just kind of come and you talk. And so it's not like there's homework involved. There's not a lot other than the phone call. Again, my group ended up emailing each other when they can, or encouraging each other. We've passed sermon notes and even sermons around to each other, which has been encouraging. But again, you can do more relationally if you want to, but there's not a lot of homework, not a lot of study or prep. I will point you to the vineyardwomen.com resources page. My goal is to read every book. I haven't read all of them yet, but they're really good. And but again, that's on your own time. That's not homework. But when you don't know what to read next, you can go to that page, and there's lots of really helpful books, articles, things like that you can be reading. Di, are you muted?
Okay. It looked like Kimberly was responding. Did anybody get that on the chat? I want to make sure we. Okay. Maybe. Okay.
if you click on the chat,
she said, I'm implementing mentor teams in our church, even as I consider this for myself. Thank you for this opportunity. Very exciting. Thanks, Kim.
Good. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. Okay.
And I think that's, Kimberly, that's such a great idea. We have this little phrase at our church about mentoring. It's called one up, one down, and tell everybody that they're kind of responsible for that you have a mentor above you and someone below you that you're mentoring. And that's this idea of one up, one down. And what 2 Timothy 2:2 is all about, of what I've given to you, I've entrusted to you to learn to give on to others. And it's the beauty of mentoring. It's a pebble in a pond. What you get to pass on. So I'm glad you're building that into your environment at church. What a great church culture to actually have the discipleship culture in your church. It's awesome.
Cool. Okay. Then we have a question from Carol Frank. Hi, Carol. And she tells us she's 61 years old. She's up there with Rose and me. And she said she's one of a handful of older women in a very young and growing congregation, not in leadership, but a mentor for a group of young moms. And she's just trying to determine if what we're offering is something that she should be involved with, because she's not sure what God's calling her to. So, but definitely, and this is so encouraging, Carol, you say you feel drawn to learn and grow, and just to be more helpful to these moms. That's awesome. Does anybody want to respond to that specifically? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we were young 20s when we planted our church, and I feel like we've been begging God for years to have older people, older women, just older than us, not old, just older. And I think it's just this year that we have this big group in our church called Aging Gracefully. And it has been a game changer for our church, an absolute game changer. There's people who want to do ministry. They have a lot of wisdom. Just they're jumping in. And so I just want you to know that you are valued and you are needed. And I talk to young moms all the time, and they just want like older women to speak into their lives. I think ageism is such a thing. Like, we're all insecure about what age we are, whatever age it is. We're too old, we're too young, we're too this. And it's like, just try not to don't let the enemy like hold you back from anything. We need people of all ages, and we need the voices and the wisdom of all ages to work together and do ministry. And so these young moms need you. Moms are always telling me how much they need people like you in their lives, and your church needs you. So I think, you can do this. And then as you do this, you can either start your own mentoring thing, or you can be pointing others to this mentoring thing. But I think absolutely you will learn a lot just how we mentor each other in this mentoring thing.
Thank you. That was really helpful, Sharon. I hope that helped you, Carol. Okay. We are waiting to see if there's any more questions. Oh, okay. One just came in from Nellie Kia. She says, I am thankful for the message of mentoring. I need to join you to this service, trusting God to start mentoring. Okay, that's good. We'll be looking for you. That's awesome. Anybody else? Any other questions? Go ahead, and we'll give you just a few minutes. Any other comments from anybody on the panel? Anything else you'd like to say? You did a great job of.
As a question to the people who are watching, what do you think are some of the roadblocks that you have to actually getting into mentoring? What are some of the things that you think about that maybe you wonder if a program like this is for you, or what might keep you from this? Just curious. Any comments over on the sides, or do you feel like you're all in, and put a thumbs up if you're all in for it, and it's like, yep, this is good?
While we're waiting for that, and that's an excellent question, Chalane, because it really helps people be more just self-aware, which of course is one of the top skills in leadership. If they can just say, like, what's keeping me from this, or what are the fears, or what are my excuses, or I think that's good. Kimberly said again, she knows a couple young moms that are even considering seminary. They're determining their call and role in the church, Vineyard, and outside. Is this any kind of format for that more season of exploration? They're not formally yet in ministry, or is this more for those who are currently in roles in formation of ministry? Okay, who'd like to answer that? Anybody?
I had women in my last group that were not formally in a leadership role, that they were discerning their call, and it worked out fine. I think it was super helpful for them.
Yeah, I think talking to other people in ministry roles too, I think you can get kind of an inside look on what other people are doing, or what they're what they're wired up to do, and then you can figure out what you're wired up to do. It's also really encouraging of how many women in ministry, women in leadership have been to seminary, how many haven't been to seminary, and there's not just like a one track or one shoe fits all. And I think that's encouraging too. Some people are just taking classes online. Some people just went to Bible college. Some people have seminary degrees. And so I think just to open it up and be like, oh, wow, all these women are doing all these things, and they probably took all these paths to get there. But really, it's what God is doing and where God is calling you. So I think it's a great place to explore and to also see the other side of like, what's it really like?
Yes. Guy, I don't think we've discussed this before, but if a woman wants to join us, but they're not in the vineyard, how are you feeling about that? Like, what do you guys?
If they're not in a vineyard, I mean, I would say they're welcome. I mean, we love the whole church, and we learn from the whole church. And I personally don't have any problem with that. My two personal experiences when I did the Transforming Center with Ruth Haley Barton, it was so valuable to be in groups with people that were from all different denominations. And so, I mean, that was just not a total, one-on-one mentoring, but I just saw again. And then my daughter's experience with this leadership group, she was with people from all over the country, none of whom were Vineyard. And that really opened her eyes to many things and was so encouraging. So I personally don't have a problem with that. Ladies, anybody else, if they're outside the Vineyard?
I had
think
one
it's
person.
actually, go ahead, Sharon.
No, you go.
I think it's a great idea, because you might actually find yourself leading like in a community like I am, where there's no other women senior leaders within our tribe, and how great to actually have a cohort that has already been established of people outside of our tribe that you can have a relationship with and discussions with, and you're used to that. So maybe it's that there's another lead Methodist pastor or minister that's a woman, or Presbyterian or something, and we all learn so much from each other. We're better together. So I think it's a great opportunity, and probably a little more likely for what we will find in our community.
Yeah, I will say I had someone in my group who is not Vineyard, and it's interesting because she's a co-senior pastor, but not with her husband, and they are kind of denominationally homeless, and they're considering joining the Vineyard. And so it was awesome to have her in our group. And I don't know if she'll always be a friend of the Vineyard, whether she joins the Vineyard or not. She was hungry for this, and then who knows, she might even join the tribe.
Good. Okay, that was helpful. Okay, thank you. Carol, you wrote back and said you have the support of the male leadership in your church, which is awesome. And you're hesitant there, you say, just through some previous hurts. Well, you're in a new season, and you have new relationships. And so we just want to encourage you. I think this would be a great way that you could process. So even like some of your we don't process your hurts per se, but you could share your heart, and we could help you get over that hump as you now just embrace the new place that God has you. So, and one other thing, back to the question about, do you have to already be in leadership or, be pastoring? What we have found is because women have not had the opportunities or being given the go-ahead, throughout history, and only since 2006 in the Vineyard, many have never considered it. They maybe had a stirring, but went off into a different career or just haven't pursued it. Well, a group like this will help them hone in on that call, if indeed it's there. And so that's why we want to leave it open. If you're not currently like on a staff or you know for sure, this could be the spot where you actually discover, oh, I can say yes to this, and know that God's pleased with that for sure, and that you have a whole group, including a whole denomination called the Vineyard, who support you as a woman leader. So, okay. Does anybody see any more questions, or are we good?
Yeah, there's a few more questions on there, Di.
Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, I got him back up.
Yeah, Kathy Chester. Hi, Kathy, by the way, and I'm so glad that your home and your church are okay. That is just such a blessing. She's in the hurricane impacted zone, like right in the middle of it. So great. And how would this mentoring help you as a lead pastor? Again, looking at potential role change in leadership. Christina talked at the very beginning of this webinar how transitions was actually one of the major themes within her group. And whether we're in transition or not, we think we are. Like, you know, we're almost always in some kind of transition. But boy, just being around a group of people who I think can encourage you, support you, be with you, deepen the knowledge well that you get to pull stuff from, I think it's very, very helpful no matter where you are in your leadership. You're a great leader, and you'd bring a lot to a group, actually, Kathy. I think you'd be amazing.
Yeah, Kathy, hi. I just wanted to add that just like Chalane had said, you have so much to offer. And one thing that we have found in this past group was how as a group we actually are able to discern together, and you kind of throw out, well, this is what I'm thinking, and then just the wisdom that comes out of the other women in the group has been so good, because you have different personalities, different giftings, different ideas and thoughts and backgrounds. And so yeah, I mean, if for anyone that's in transition, I feel like this is one of the best places that you can go through that whole process. So
yeah.
And
Melanie, again, first of all, I went, what? Monthly regional breakfasts? Oh my gosh. How fun. You lucky girl. But you're joining a bunch of people who are probably the only woman at their area or at their regional. And how great to actually know that every month you also have a way to get together with other women in leadership. So yeah, join up, girl. Join up. And now I got to tell my regional leader to start putting breakfast together.
Okay, from Nancy Penton. She says, I'm thankful for this group. I'm not a senior pastor, but I serve on a leadership team and preach occasionally and work as an adjunct professor and teach spiritual formation and spiritual discernment classes. You are busy. What requirements are necessary to be a mentor? Anybody want to tackle that one? How about our fellow adjunct professor, Rose?
I think, Di, I want to talk with you about that offline. I don't want to make a statement for all of us, but Nancy, can we get back to you on that? If you could give us your email, I think that's something our team needs to talk through, that we haven't really quite figured out what the criteria is. So I would hate to say something for a team and then not. So if you would send us your email, we will definitely get back to you on that.
Thank you, Rose. That was wisdom. And I think we as a team do need to discuss that, because I've had several other people say, ooh, this is something I would enjoy doing. And wow, that is a fruit that we would love to see born out of this, that we begin to see this just spread, even beyond, obviously, our somewhat small team. And so there, I see Nancy handed that to us. And I should mention, we are missing today Kathy Maskell from the Blue Root Vineyard, and she's participated in our mentoring program, and Amanda Nash, who's part of our team from the Columbus Vineyard. And so generally they're involved in planning and all that we do, but they could not be on the call today. So, and we have had men on our team, just in case you're wondering, and Our two men that have been with us for the past year are currently not able to serve on our team. They have other things happening in their lives and ministry. So we're looking to add that dimension, but that's just an aside, just so that you know that it's not just totally women, because women in leadership working with men is really important to us. Okay. Well, I think we're going to close. It's 12:02 here in Central Time Zone. And this will be posted, I know, on our web page and perhaps on our Facebook page. I'm not sure. Is Katie, who's our administrator, are you still with us, Katie? Yes. Any details on that?
Yeah, so if anyone had signed up for the webinar and weren't able to join us, we're emailing it out to everyone that was registered. I know there's about 20 people that registered and not be able to get on. It's also on Facebook Live right now, and it'll be on our website. So we'll have the webinar lots of places. You can watch it later if you had to hop in halfway through or at the end.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so go ahead to our website, sign up, or you can send a message to any of us on Facebook or on our Facebook page, and we'll get promptly back to you if you have other questions that came up. But just know applications are due by mid-October, October 15th, and we're looking forward to meeting all of the new mentees. So have a great day. We just ask the Holy Spirit to fill you to overflowing, all of you. Yes. So long.